Now, if you're not familiar with stereotypes, you probably already know one, like the black people only eat fried chicken and drink Kool-Aid stereotype. Those are types of stereotypes where people think that a race does this, when really we don't. I mean, not all African Americans like fried chicken and Kool-Aid. Not all African Americans dress like this or listen to that, because we're all unique. I mean, with the same skin color, we're all Homo sapiens, but we have different personalities because we're all different. But then we're all the same in a from a big view of it, we're all the same, but then from a little view, if you look at every little aspect, we're all different.
And so Lana, if looking at the Brown versus the Board of Education and Plessy versus Ferguson, you were able to bring some foundation in reference to separation of the races and et cetera. But in spite of all of that, you still believe that that it is the destiny of mankind to come together and everybody's supposed to be able to love one another and accept. Now, how does this leadership conference that you're getting ready to attend, how does that fit into your perceptions in terms of
what Dr. Hand is referencing to is the Junior National Young Leaders Conference. And that is a conference that I was nominated to attend and that I'm going to attend this June of 2014, this summer. Basically, the Junior National Young Leaders Conference is basically where just, you know, academically achieving kids and smart kids and just kids who have special gifts like encore students come together, and then we don't all just sit around at a table for a whole week, and this is a week thing. We go around Washington, D.C. and learn about this as our living classroom, because we get to learn about our different races and our triumphs and all this and our and just all these beautiful things, and it gets to really inspire who we are. And I'm glad that this has been established, because this is really inspiring kids to move forward instead of just being how they see on TV or on BET. It's inspiring them to be themselves and to be a future leader.
Well, Lana, do you think that many children, young people your age, understand what you're talking about in terms of separation and segregation and et cetera? And if not, what would you do and what should we do in order to make sure that they have a knowledge of some of the things you're talking about?
I don't. I mean, because I can't go down the street and be preaching all this and have a lot of kids say, oh my gosh, I understand how you feel. The majority of them would look at me like I was crazy and say, are you some old lady trapped in a little girl's body? But really, the reason I'm on here is to just get the word out, to basically spread to kids my age and to people your age and to people everybody's age that, hey, I mean, if I'm a kid doing this, then you can be so-and-so doing this, because this is possible. And you know what? I want to be a future leader, and so I'm trying to mold other smaller kids or maybe even bigger people to be future leaders with me.
Okay, very good. And Lana, let me say over the last 15 or 20 seconds that we have here that we certainly appreciate that information, and we encourage you and encourage others to continue your thought in reference to this. And of course, we'll be back with our audience next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic today is from school to prison, breaking the pipeline. And we have with us to talk about the topic from school to prisons and breaking the white pipeline, Pastor Kay Walker. And Pastor Kay Walker has with him today Ms. Rashida Fatuga and Ms. Sharika Hughes, both individuals that play a very, very significant role in terms of the topic that we are talking about today. And so, Pastor Walker, let's start off by having you, as well as Ms. Hughes and Ms. Fatuga, give us some information about your background, your education, and some of your experiences, and then we'll be able to get into the topic, perhaps by the second part of this show, dealing with the efforts from from school to a prison and how we might break that pipeline. Let's start off with you.
Okay, Dr. Henry, first of all, let me thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come on your show and to share some information that I think is going to be of valuable importance to your listening audience. My name is Pastor Kelvin Walker. I pastor the Hands of God Christian Church. We're located in East Nashville on North 2nd Street. I was born and raised right here in Nashville, Tennessee, attended the public schools of Tennessee, and amazingly enough, I thought about it on the way over here to the studio here, Dr. Haney, how that, I don't know how long this prison to school to prison pipeline has been in place, but I know back in the 70s that I was kicked out of all the metropolitan Nashville, Davidson County public schools for extortion. And I recall the principal telling me in my first year of high school, you know, that Mr. Walker, your reputation precedes you, and the first thing I did, I got kicked out of the school system totally. And of course I fell into that trap, ended up in prison on drugs and all the whole 9 yards. So, but I'm here today because this is an important issue, and I brought a couple of guests with me, and I just want to kind of yield to them so that they can talk about it.
Okay. Well, Ms. Fatuga, why don't you give us some information about your background, education, and some of the things that were important in your life, and we will follow that with Ms. Hughes, giving us basically the same kind of information, and then we'll be able to go into this second segment dealing with the topic from school to a prison.
Okay, thank you also for having us on the show today. My name is Rashida Fatuga, and I'm the founder of Gideon's Army, Grassroots Army for Children, and we are a grassroots organization that's youth-led and focused on dismantling the school-to-prison pipeline in Nashville, Tennessee.
Very good. And Ms. Hughes?
Well, my name is Sharika Hughes, and I'm a student at the Academy of Old Conqueror. This is my senior year, and I'm part of the Get Against Army nonprofit program for the Peace Project, help supporting youth in school.
And so you're part, in a real sense, part of the program that Ms. Fatuga is talking about. Is that your?
Yes, sir. I'm over the youth in school.
Pastor Walker, let's look at this idea of from school to prison, and I think that there are a large number of young people, many African American youth certainly, who fall into that trap, into that category. What can we say about that?
You know, Dr. Haney, you know me, I'm one that always believe that our government don't always have our best interests at heart. And especially when it comes to the young African American male, and especially the young African American male, in terms of wanting us to have the education that they say that they want us to have, but at the same time creating all types of systems and obstacles and roadblocks that would deter us from acquiring that education. And in our school system, and I think a lot of people are not aware of a lot of the things that take place in our school system that are systematically designed to stop our people from being educated. And that's why we're here today, to talk about these things and to really make the public aware so that we can come together and effectively bust up this school to prison pipeline, because they're identifying our young children at an early age, and they're shuffling them through. And then when you couple that with the privatization of prisons here in the United States of America, it's a deadly situation. It's a deadly poison that's in our society right now. There has to be, we have to recognize it, and then not only do we have to recognize it, but we have to stand up and challenge it and fight against it and eradicate it out of our school systems.
Let's see, Ms. Fatuga, now you've established, we've got about a minute before the end of this segment, but you've established this organization, and make some statements about this organization before we end this segment for today, and then we'll come back and we'll pick up with Ms. Hughes. But give some statements in reference to this organization that you've established.
Okay, well, Gideon's Army is working on a campaign to stop the school to prison pipeline. And what we're doing is looking at the systemic issues in our public school system judicial courts, and then also just how our kids are handled as far as policing is concerned. That's our focus specifically for this year.
And so you think that you've got a good program that can, in a real sense, at least touch this whole problem of from school to prison, and that's why you wanted to bring Ms. Hughes with you today, and she will be able, when we come back, to give us some information in reference to her journey into this program. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Pastor Walker, Ms. Fatuga, and Ms. Hughes in reference to from school to prison, breaking the pipeline. Pastor Walker, I think that we've talked about the revolving door situation for a long time, but now I think the idea here is from school to prison, and then you go in prison, and then you come back and get involved in the revolving door.
Absolutely.
I think in a real sense. Ms. Hughes, let's have you to talk about your journey to this organization that has been established by Ms. Fatuga, and how you feel that it has helped you and those that you work with or those around you.
Okay, well, I got involved in Get Against Army through my brother, which makes me passionate about it. He was murdered in 2011. He was a very troubled student, and he didn't have the opportunity to experience the things I got to experience. I was very different. I was passionate about school. I always wanted to get out, so I did everything positive that I could think of with the help of others to just get out of the neighborhood I was in, the people who were involved with it. And I had experienced something my junior year of high school, which I've never been in trouble. And soon I got in trouble. It was like everyone who helped me and supported me to be different and to experience different things, they dropped me. And I wasn't able to go to Nashville Public School anymore, and I was put in an alternative school, so it's like I was stereotyped, like I was a bad student, but I wasn't. I was good. I did everything from the beginning to prove to everyone that I was different, and everyone knew that. So when Get Against Army came about with Rashida Fatuga, and I knew there was other students out there who were being pushed out of school, who it was their first offense, but it was zero tolerance in school, they didn't get a chance to express their feelings or how they felt, and when they fought about how they felt and how they got in the situation, they were just looked down upon because it didn't matter, because they didn't have a voice. So joining with Get Against Army, I have been able to meet people from Vanderbilt, Fisk University, TSU, so it's just like a huge diversity of people who've got in trouble, different race. It really didn't matter, and we just all got to come together and just express our experience of like how Get Against Army would help us, or how we could help other students who've been pushed out of school. And that's really just been our main goal, of helping youth stay in school, staying positive, being supportive, on helping them just experience different things without being stereotyped.
So Ms. Fatuga, you established this organization, Get Against Army. Well, now, what prompted you, what motivated you to think of an organization like this, and tell us something about the successes that you've had in reference to this organization?
Okay, well, my motivation is, number one, I was a Metro Public School teacher for 7 years. I taught in the Edge Hill community, and I loved being in the classroom. But I did see, as my students got older, you know, just keeping in touch with them over the years, they ended up being pushed out of schools. They didn't love school like they used to, incarcerated, murdered. All of these things are happening to my babies, and it came a point in time in looking for other leaders to step up and to do something. And I realized that a lot of people have really great intentions but don't understand community organizing or haven't really done the research to know and understand what really can dismantle the prison pipeline by striking at the roots, not just dealing with little symptoms, putting out fires here and there, but what can we do to cut it at its root. And that's been really the goal and the focus that we've had. We're a relatively young organization, but we've done a lot. We've had a lot of different successes, and success, of course, is relative, but we've been able to build a solid base of young people at a lot of schools to do trainings. We launched the Peace Project, which is a youth-led initiative to stop violence against youth, which has been really powerful because we train the youth and then the youth train each other. And so they are empowered and can see also how they have control, more control over their environments and over their situations than a lot of times they feel. The system, it's big, and it can also seem very overwhelming and like we can't do anything to I don't want to say fight the system, but to correct the wrongs within the system, or to restructure the system so that everything and everyone functions properly within it. But it's actually really doable if we're strategic enough. I think another big success is that we understand, and we've done a lot of research so that we're very strategic with everything we do. And so it won't be just a lot of feel-good moments and a lot of just things based off of emotion. We're doing things that really work.
And so, Pastor Walker, in a real sense, you as well as they have identified this as one of the real questions that we have dealing with our young people today, this whole idea of incarceration and prison to from school to prison and et cetera.
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Haney. When you listen to Ms. Hughes' statement, her story over there, you understand here you got a young lady that's determined to go to school, do what's necessary to do the right things and make the grades and deliberately being different and not fitting into a certain mold, and then to have one thing comes up and then to, because of the zero tolerance, to just be pushed completely out of the system into a whole negative environment, into an alternative school section where a lot of the students in those sections, some of them are trouble students, but to put her in that environment, and that's to just curtail, what she's doing. So she could have easily taken that and just given up and went into another direction, caught up in drugs, alcohol, and all types of aberrant behaviors because of that. It's just by the grace of God that she had the will enough to continue to pursue what she had already predestined in her mind to accomplish. And otherwise, she would have fell victim to that trap. And that's what we need to talk about, identify that trap. What is that school to prison pipeline? How does it work? When do they identify? What do they do to determine what prison is going to be built in the future in these communities and stuff like that?
And so in a real sense, what we're doing here is trying to break that, as you indicated, break the pipeline from there. And it's the same thing that happens after the pipeline has put them in prison. They go to prison without any kind of reformation or anything and come back, and then they're back to prison again. And so this is really the front end, in a real sense, of this revolving door, in a real sense.
Absolutely, because, you're looking at our children now, because of the privatization of prison in America, you're looking at children as commodities, So this is how do we make money off of these students? And of course, we know slavery is still legal in the prison system. So if I can get this free labor, and if I can find a way to target it, then I can guarantee.
Very good. And of course, we're going to be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Pastor Walker, Ms. Fatuga, and Ms. Hughes in reference to from school to prison. The pipeline is being broken here today in terms of the information that we're receiving about some of the events that eventually will take young people into prisons, even out of the school system. And of course, Ms. Hughes, let's see if we can pick up with you, because I think that you mentioned something that was very revealing in terms of how your life simply changed and whatever. And so if you don't mind, let's talk about that for a few minutes and have Ms. Fatuga to sort of bring to some kind of resolution in terms of why she feels that what she's doing has helped you.
Okay, well, as I said, my brother was murdered in 2011, and he had always had trouble with schooling. Like, the teachers didn't want him in the class. He wasn't motivated to go because he knew that he wasn't wanted. So